Did I ever tell you about that time that I got fired from a church financial board, from the financial committee? Yeah, I did. Oh, about 30 years ago when I was a practicing Christian deacon and I was elected to the financial committee because they saw the fact that I owned a business that I would be a good person to have on that committee. Well, it came time for the annual budget. And when I looked at the annual budget and I looked over the previous 3-4 years, one thing that I noticed is that the church was always running a surplus every year. And every time they was running a surplus, the church increased the pay of everybody who worked for the church. Now, there's nothing wrong with a little inflationary increase. But what I noticed is that if they were set to get a 5% increase, depending upon the surplus, they might have got a 10% increase or 15%, 20% increase, depending upon the surplus. In this current year that I was looking at, there was a surplus of $400,000. I looked over the budget and I was looking to see were there the plans for the upcoming budget, to see are there plans to, we dug 2 wells last year, sent 2 missionary trips to India, gave out this much to people who came to the church in need, to members who was in need. We had we used this much for the school, for the kids to go back to school, and so on and so forth. I looked over all those things and I saw that those things were already planned within the budget and that they would not even touch the $400,000 surplus. So I had a problem. And the problem happened when we was getting ready to finalize the next year's budget. And I said to the committee, I said, well, look, according to Christianity, we are supposed to be following a God-man deity who abhorred the maintaining of wealth. As a matter of fact, to quote Jesus in the story of the rich young ruler, he told him to sell all his personal belongings and give them to the poor and give them to the orphan and give them to the widows. He went away disheartened. This is where the whole thing of it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. That's where that saying comes from. I said, now in the Old Testament, it's combative. It's combative to the New Testament. You see, in the Old Testament, it's about the accumulation of wealth. Look at every patriarch in the Old Testament, and every last one of them accumulated wealth. Every last one of them became wealthy. Each one of them. You can't find one that didn't. And a man's righteousness was measured by how much wealth the man accumulated. This is why they thought Job had committed sins. I brought all these things to bear. Even brought up that in Ecclesiastes it says to do many businesses because you do not know which one will succeed. But Jesus bringing a New Testament, it's about just having enough to facilitate the ministry and take care of the people in the ministry. It's not about the accumulation of wealth and the constant increase in wealth. They paused and paused. Needless to say that there was a vote during lunch. I wasn't there. And when I came back from lunch, the vote was to kick me off the financial board. You see, they didn't like that. You see, the pastor wanted to get a 20% raise. The secretary wanted a 20% raise. Everybody who worked for the church wanted a 20% raise. The church wanted more beautification projects to go on in the church. The church wanted to build more buildings for the church so that they can house more people. Get better audiovisual equipment, even though they just bought brand new stuff 5 years prior. You see, it was all about keeping the money, utilizing the money for themselves. Yeah, we send a couple of missionary trips. We dig a couple of wells. We make it look like we putting this money out. We gave some money to Sister Teresa. We gave some money to Brother Jenkins. Yeah, it just want to look like we doing it. Oh, and I forgot the other biggest issue I had, the other thing that I said that this is probably what got me fired, is that I said, okay, the church required about $500,000 a year to facilitate everything that is needed. It was a pretty decent sized church. You need about $500,000 a year. We already got $400,000. How about once we reach, say, once we reach another $200,000, that way we got the 500,000 plus another 1,000 just in case something happens. Once we reach about 200,000 in offerings, we tell the people to hold on to your money for the rest of the year. The church budget has been satisfied. We also got extra money just in case something happens. And unless something really go down, we're not going to ask the congregation for any money. That's probably the thing that got me fired. I'm pretty sure that was the main one. But I haven't thought about that in a while. And in the interview that I did today on Tim's podcast, it reminded me of that. That podcast will be out in about 2 weeks. It reminded me of that story. So tell me what you guys think. Just a little story about my life. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.